Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. I want to make a couple of final comments on transit after our good discussion about the broken funding model from an operational standpoint. And I think it is back to infrastructure for a minute. And I think London, England, is the best example of the argument I want to make. London, England, after numerous decades of lack of investment in transit, did two major things. And really it was, the catalyst was a small thing they did with Canary Wharf, connecting Canary Wharf to the City of London. And it worked so well that they decided to reinvest in infrastructure. And they built two major things. The first one was a cross town rail that they ended up calling the Elizabethan line. And what it did is it connected the east and west. And it was a fairly major investment that people are saying within 2 years of opening has already justified its cost, and it's got 200 million passengers. Incredibly successful, because what it says is that London was a major city, that people wanted to connect to each other and wanted to cross the city, and yet the ability to cross the city had been damaged fairly dramatically by congestion, by growth, by density, etc. And Crossrail allowed it to take place. And then the second thing is an overground. So they've got the underground, which is the subways, and they built this overground, which was primarily using existing rail infrastructure as a way of getting around London. So they've got the underground, which is around getting sort of around the middle of London, Crossrail Elizabeth line, which is to get across London, and now overground, which is a way of getting around London. We in Toronto could do the same thing with a couple of important developments. The first one would be the Mid-Toronto line, which is taking that CP rail line that goes from Milton to Kipling, and then across to Casa Loma, Summerhill LCBO, Science Center, and out to the zoo, and carries dangerous freight, carries oil, carries freight, and should be taken off of that line north of the city, where the CN line already takes freight. And that line could be our Crossrail, could be our Elizabethan line. And I think it would be transformative to connecting the city together in a way that hasn't previously been done. And would be an express, which is what some of the Crossrail does as well, is it parallels some of the central line of the London Underground, but provides a far faster way of getting across the city, just like the 7th Avenue Express does in New York, where there's something like 49 stations between Harlem and Wall Street, but only 7 on the Express. We need that ability to get across quickly, which the Mid-Toronto line would provide. And then the second is, we've got numerous other rail lines that exist around the city of Toronto that could really create a network. And it's smart tracks to a certain extent, because it's sort of John Tory's idea of using existing rail lines for passenger service. But even his smart tracks still had everything going down to Union Station. And as we talked about in our last segment, there's a lot more sort of distributed traffic, network traffic commuting in Toronto today, and less down to Bay and King or Union Station than there was in the past. And I think the line to Bolton, the line across 407, Highway 7, numerous of the other rail lines, the Mid-Toronto line, there's a line that goes from Lakeview to Lake Long Branch to Kipling that could be extended up to the airport. There's other lines that we could be using that would circle our city, connect our city in a network, rather than all radial down to Union Station. And I think that's a secret. I would also add that I think electrification is key for, number one, climate change reasons, but number two, very importantly, for frequency. There's this concept of an S-curve in transit that as frequency becomes so frequent that you no longer look at a schedule before you go to the station, because you know there's a train or a subway or bus coming soon enough. That's when passenger traffic goes up dramatically. We chatted in the last segment about this dairy bus that comes every 6 minutes. That's the kind of frequency that one needs, like 5-minute kind of service. And I think that with our big diesel trains, we can't do that, but with electrification, we could. They also go faster, brake faster, accelerate faster, have less headspace, etc. And so I think that's critical. And this express concept, both with the Mid-Toronto line that I talked about, but also with electrification, becomes possible. And then the final thing, which I think is really critical, is that there are other nexes of demand that are critical, and we need to support them, not just Union Station. And I think the Summerhill LCBO and that Mid Toronto would be one. I think Kipling, if you had another train come into that, that would be sort of like Jamaica Station in Queens, which has got the subways, got the buses, got the Long Island Railway, it's got the train to the Sky Train to the airport. That's what Kipling could and should be, and created a nexus of development in Queens at Jamaica Station that is critical. North York is one. If you took the Shepherd subway and extended it and connected it up with other connections. So I think we got to think about transit infrastructure as a network and taking it to the next level, and taking what's gone on with the Ontario line and thanking the provincial government for that investment, but not stopping there and continuing the development. And I think London, England, the RER and Metro in Paris, the use of overground, of on-ground rail in Chicago, etc., as great examples of the system that we could and should create to make the city that we should be in the future, which is a city of 10 million people and growing, the fourth largest city in North America, that's knits together the Greater Toronto Area in a way that's never been knitted together before. Thanks. Good night, everybody. Appreciate you joining me. That's the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. Thanks. Good night.